Welcome to Taproots Sessions, the place to come to focus on what matters most when God's people gather to worship Him. Here we aim to have conversations that deepen our biblical understanding of worship and examine the root of what we are cultivating, both in our personal lives as well as in our churches. Taproot Sessions is brought to you by Rooted Worship Ministries. My name is Karina Jennings, and I'm here with Dave Hook, founder of Rooted Worship. Dave holds a music degree from Grand Canyon University and a Master of Fine Arts from UCLA. He's an ordained pastor who's been in ministry for 46 years, serving churches from 60 people to 9,000 people all throughout the Southeast United States, Arizona, California, Texas, as well as in Nebraska and Mississippi. He is currently professor of worship and music at Southeastern Baptist College. He previously served as adjunct professor of music and worship at Grand Canyon University and as department head and associate professor of worship studies at Nebraska Christian College. Dave has been married for 42 years to his wife, Luann, and together they have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. He's a published author, published songwriter, and a music producer. But at his core, he is a lead worshiper in the kingdom of God. There is so much to know about Dave and the journey that has brought about Rooted Worship Ministries, but the journey is just beginning for you, our listener. And we are so excited to begin it together. So, Dave, welcome to your podcast.
I got chills. I mean, it was an awkward moment there, but I don't think I have felt so good about me ever.
Let's just do this every morning.
Every morning. Every morning. I'm just going to play that at the beginning. And I'm more excited because this is my second shot of double espresso. I'm doing this at 4 p.m. So I'm probably
going to be so good. Tonight. We should say it is April Fool's Day today. We are recording this on the 1st of April. This is not a joke.
Because Artemis is launching.
Yes.
As we're doing this.
I thought of that today. This is a momentous day. And so they are going to the moon. And so we are too. We are shooting. What's that quote? Aim for the moon and you might hit a street light. That's what we're doing. We're doing that. We're going to aim for the moon. Hopefully we hit a street light. Let's see how it goes. So welcome.
I just want to say
this is episode 1.
Thank you so much for doing this, Karina. I mean, I want to jump in there on our journey because you shared that story with me, and I'm probably going completely off your outline right now, but I want you to share that story in a moment about how these things are all brought full circle. And at the end there, what you said, I'll start out with this. You said something to the effect of, he just enjoys being a worship leader of all these other things that he's done, and I know we're going to talk about that. But I got to thinking, as soon as you said that, when you were, we were kind of rehearsing that an hour or so ago, I was taken back to when I played in like rock bands. We can talk about the church part like we're going to do, but when I played in these bands, they would even get bugged at me because I was always trying to get everybody to sing along all the time. They'd say, Dave, take the song, you do the Journey song, you do the Queen song, and I get everybody going to sing, and they would get so upset at me for doing this. It's like, Dave, stop trying to get them to sing. Just do the song. Just do the song, Dave. And it was just something that was in me from the very beginning is that I was always concerned about the people participating. I remember this is kind of an awkward moment. I'll share this real quick here. It's the espresso kicking in, but I remember having to open up for a radio station in El Paso for Petra. You remember Petra? The rock band?
I do.
And they were doing their Beyond Belief tour. And all I had to do was walk out there. They made me wear a suit and walk out there and say, Petra's going to start. It's going to be Beyond Belief. I went out there and I suddenly had this moment. There were 5,000 people in this room, or I don't know, probably more than that. Guess what I suddenly wanted to do? I suddenly wanted to sing. And so I remember singing this. I sing. Look at all these believers out here. It's my belief. And I started singing. The problem is I had sang this song that nobody really knew. All these youth kids, all these high school kids, college kids.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember I had to come back on. It's back then it was kind of like embarrassing, but now I laugh at it. I'm walking out and all the tech guys are going, don't sing the song. Just go to intermission.
Do you remember what song it was? I'm so curious.
No, because then I'll even be more embarrassed. Oh, I think it was.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Praise the name of Jesus. He's my rock. He's my
Mm,
fortress. In him will I trust. Praise the
everybody
name of Jesus. I
all
sang that,
together.
and
Yeah.
they
Oh,
all just kind of mumbled along
looked
with
at
me,
you.
and I walked off
And
to the
that's the
to the
moment that
Petra
I
tour.
knew I was not a performer. I
I'm
was
not going
called
to
to
do this.
lead.
Yeah, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be an MC for
But did you
concert.
have to wear like a white lame suit? You said you had to wear a suit. Like
No,
Petra
but I
had
did. I
some.
did. At that time, I had kind of a little tweed suit, and at that time, the big silk ties with the big floral prints were on it. So
Yes.
this was the late
So
'80s. So
cool.
it was loud colors, and I still had a little bit of my mullet, highlighted mullet.
It's
So
amazing. Uh, well, well, that's a great segue to your journey and how how vast and varied it has been. But first, let's touch back on what you just said about why are we here together? Because our journeys intersected, and it's really kind of a cool story. I first met Dave. I was just fresh out of Bible college and looking the ministry opportunity that I thought I was going to pan out didn't, and I was looking for a church. And I literally opened, I don't know if you're listening, if you remember the yellow pages, but it was an actual phone book that was delivered to your porch and or could be found hanging from a payphone. And the yellow pages were where the ads were. And so I was calling churches. And the church that I called was the church that Dave was the worship pastor at the time. And I asked to speak with whoever was in charge of the music department because that was my rubric at that time in my life. I had graduated from Bible college with a degree in music and wanted to know, that was a very important thing for me. What is the philosophy of music of this church? If I'm going to be participating in it, I want to understand that and I want to have a conversation. So I called and got Dave on the phone, and I'm sure I was such a thorn in your side. I think it was a 30-minute conversation. I'm pretty sure I grilled you, like with some deep philosophical questions. I'm sure you were like, who is this person calling me? And that was how I vetted the church, was to have a conversation with Dave. And that was 26 years ago that I had that phone call with you. And the next Sunday I showed up, and I think within a month I was on a missions trip to Italy with the worship team at
that's
South
true.
Valley. Yeah, it was pretty quick.
It's another awkward moment. I don't remember any of the conversation, but I do remember that within a month you were going to Italy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quick. So Dave answered all my questions correctly. And that's why I showed up there on Sunday. Anyway, that's the beginning of our journey together. And it's taken a lot of turns since then. But that was just a blip on Dave's journey. And so let's talk about that, because I said a lot of things in that intro. And there's a lot of kind of different spaces that you've been in. You've been a worship pastor. You know, some might have called you a music minister back in the day, or a song leader, or worship director. Let's talk about that
briefly. Well, that's something that a lot of guys out there who have been around as long as I have, they'll laugh at this and they'll connect with this. I remember, back in the day, when my dad was called to ministry, you were referred to as a song leader. I mean, that's just what you were. And then it graduated, I think, to music director. And by the time I was getting ready to go into music and high school days and stuff, they were called, music ministers. And I'd say almost within a course of 4 years, this is about the early 80s, excuse me, and the praise and worship movement that came about, and is almost immediately, it seemed like within weeks, people were starting to be called worship pastors and worship leaders. And so,
wait, where was that in your journey? That was high school
I remember
age?
exactly. I remember exactly when that happened, and we're probably going to talk about this later. Those little converging tributary thing I was talking about, but I'll say this, and then we'll come back to it. I'm the product of 3 major movements, maybe 4 if you want to add the Passion movement. It's the Jesus movement, praise and worship movement, church growth movement, and then following up that with Generation X, late 90s, mid to late 90s, I call it the Passion movement. That I was a part of specifically. There was a lot of other things going on with Vineyard and Hillsong at the time, but that was the one that influenced me the most. Anyway, back to this. I remember sitting at it was a Ben or Bill Johnson's Big Apple restaurant with my friend. And there was a pastor there who had just got done reading a book called The Hallelujah Factor. And it's by Jack Taylor. And that's during the praise and worship movement. And just without, it was like he had come from another planet and was talking something different to me. He said, it's all about worship. It's all about praise and worship now. He just kept saying that. He had a Texas accent. So it was all about praise, worship. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about, man? I'm here getting my degree in music and going to go do real music. And maybe I'll do my church gig on the side. I'm not going to do this. And he said, I just told my music minister that he is now the worship pastor and he is going to lead worship. I had no idea at that time what effect that would have on my life. 5 years later, I'm at UCLA and that terminology is beginning to switch again. I went from music minister to worship pastor to pastor in San Jose. I was called the pastor of creative arts and worship because it was about recapturing the arts for the kingdom. And then, I got so sophisticated at one point. There was a church in Salinas. I literally asked them to call me the pastor of spiritual celebration. And, it's amazing how we do this, but as I've gone through times of being humbled and studying myself in terms of biblical worship, getting knocked off your pedestal, it's amazing how we as worship leaders are given the calling and the compensation to be concerned about enthroning the Lord. And yet we spend a lot of times knocking ourselves and everybody else off their thrones. I'll just say that bluntly. And
wait,
I've had to have
hold
that
on. No, that
me.
you need to say that again. I heard you say we spend a lot of time, we get the calling and the compensation to enthrone,
to help to lead people in enthroning the Lord with our praises. And yet it's the one ministry where we spend the most amount of our time. I'll say a little bit more diplomatically and politically correct here. We have to spend a lot of our time dethroning ourselves and dethroning others, dethroning thoughts and beliefs and agendas and preferences and positions. And God shakes us from those to the point now where, what I was going to say, Karina, is I've come all the way back full circle. And yes, I am still, I believe, a lead worshiper and a worship pastor, but really at the heart of it all. And music's not, we'll talk about this later. We talked about this in our earlier discussions. I know music is not everything, but I'm coming back full circle to go, you know what? I'm a song leader.
Yeah.
I'm a psalmist.
Simply
and a
put,
song leader.
just simply, that's so beautiful.
And all those days of sitting in the band and getting ready to sing along, or that's who God wired me up to be. And at the core of it, that's where I've been affirmed in my gifting. That's where I have found that I was made to, and finally a want to. And that'll be part of, this discussion, or maybe later ones as well. But anyway, that's in a nutshell the journey I've been on.
We're going to have so many conversations. There's 10 I already want to jump off on, but we're going to keep it narrow for today because we want everybody who's listening to understand what this podcast is going to be about. Taproot Sessions is really about tapping into the root. It's aptly named for a reason. And let's talk just for a second about rooted worship ministry.
Say that five times fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk for a second about rooted worship. So from the wellspring of all of this experience that you've had in being exposed to different kinds of worship, different cultures, different spaces, different preferences, and job positions to which you were beholden, to expectations. Throughout all of that, something has been cultivated in you alongside this calling. It isn't just an understanding that you're made to do this, but something has been shaped along the way that has now begun to overflow. And that's really what rooted worship is the overflow of all these years of experience. So let's back it up for just a second and talk about our parent ministry, Rooted Worship. Where did that begin? What is it even?
Well, growing up in the church and, being part of church music and church worship since childhood, that's where I was. you can call me and, we've talked about this at a friendship level. I was a church brat. People see that's a negative term. All that really means is you take off your shoes and the worship space becomes your playground, before and after worship, and you live there while your mom and dad are doing practice and stuff. So I grew up in that. I wanted to do anything but church ministry, anything but that, because
that's so, isn't that so interesting? Yeah.
Well, I hate to say it this way. It's embarrassing to say. I was just very arrogant. I was going to go do real music. I was not going to waste my time and my talent doing something like this, So, I did that. Second of all, and we're going to find out with the Taproot Sessions, part of this is as much transparency as we can have. I saw sometimes the darker times that my dad and mom went through as church leaders. And I think I found myself saying, nope, not me. I'm not going to do that. That's not going to be me. And so I ran from that. I ran from it. But I found myself very often in church situations and being in classical music and playing in rock bands and doing jazz music and doing choral music and doing musical theater. That helps you. You find yourself in all kinds of different situations, not only culturally and artistically, but in the area of worship. You find yourself in a Catholic mass. You find yourself Episcopal Anglican churches. You find yourself sometimes in places where they're doing urban gospel and or you're in a charismatic service, and you have all these wonderful experiences from an artistic level, a musical level. And I found myself many times having this underlying question that said, what are we doing here? Sometimes that was inquisitive. Sometimes that was with frustration. Sometimes in my more cynical times, it was throwing my hands up going, what are we doing here? What is this about? We're just not getting this right. I also found very often in my journey, dealing with a great sense of insecurity and identity crisis. And I find many times leaders, we have to understand leaders impose their journeys upon their congregations. And
absolutely.
Many times I've found my church struggling with that. The church down the road syndrome, the going to a concert going, why can't worship be like that at my church? And dealing with all those things of comparison. And we've done that. We've done that from the beginning of time, especially artists. The worst thing that Satan, the evil one, does subtly in our lives is puts us in a constant state of comparison. Why can't I be like that? Why can't I do that? Why can't I sound like that? Why can't I write like that? And I dealt with that. And I imposed that upon my churches. And I found many times that insecurity made me only work at a surface level. I got busy. I set expectations I couldn't keep. And I found myself not going deeper and understanding what worship was really about. And to bring that full circle, let me quickly share this illustration. I found that when I read Ephesians 3, and when I looked at the passage in Colossians about being rooted and grounded, it did not talk about being rooted and grounded in knowledge or spiritual prowess or potency. It was or you've achieved something. It was being rooted and grounded in the knowledge of the love of Christ. And in our next session, we'll talk about this, where in 1 Peter, it talks about literally becoming partakers of the divine nature of God. And I thought to myself, I'm missing something here. In some of my most darkest times of burnout and emptiness and uncertainty, I found myself going, I'm wondering if other worship leaders are feeling this way, insecure, feeling like they've either aged out or they're no longer effective, or they're young worship leaders that say, I want to serve Jesus, but I don't understand. Am I called to this? Is my want to? Is my must? Is my made to? Am I wired up for this, God? Or am I just playing a game here? And we found ourselves in a world where it's just a YouTube culture. Let's just copycat. We don't go deeper. The analogy of rooted worship is that very thing. I came up with that term when I was in Mississippi for 3.5 years. They have loblolly trees, and they're conifers, and they have a
Wait, what kind of trees? What are they called?
Loblolly. loblolly, yellow pines.
Loblolly.
And you're in a subtropical culture, and yet you've got pine trees. It's the pine tree capital of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't know that. It's called the Pine Belt. They're pine trees right in the middle of all this, near Florida and Georgia and everything. And they have a taproot system. I live here in Tucson. Saguaro cactus, their root system goes down. It's a taproot system. It goes 20, 75 feet down. Yeah. Think about that. Why? It's not only for stability, but it's for they live in areas where they've got to hold on. They've got to go down deeper for life. And
right.
And I thought, I realized that's me. That's me. I have got to go to the depths of the root system of my life, and realizing that at the heart of worship and worship leadership is that taproot. We have got to go much deeper in understanding who God is and what his intention is for his people when we gather to worship each week. And most of all, how is that going to spill over into our everyday lives? How does that begin to shape our own spiritual formation? So
that's so good. I mean, I think I'm already hearing the answer to my next question, which it's about the overflow, because as long as I've known you and been part of ministries alongside you or watched your ministries, there's always been this expression of exactly what you just said, the desire for depth. That's always been a hallmark of what I've watched you do and been part of things that you've done that always went just a little bit deeper. And how can we think about this in a deeper, more, spiritually affecting, holistically affecting way, something that's going to really grab hold, like a root is going to grab hold, right? Right. I've known you to be about that in every aspect. I mean, musically, just socially, in every way. When it comes to this particular topic, worship, the overflow that I'm seeing right now, I think it's, as you said, a combination of both personal experience, frustration, possibly experiencing burnout, experiencing overflow, all of this culmination of your life experiences. What is it right now that has you wanting to spill that out in a way that's forward facing like this? I mean, why start a podcast? Why not just do this in your local church ministry? What is it that has motivated you to say, this is for everyone? And maybe you could also answer, who is everyone? Who is this for? Is it really for everyone? Who is Rooted Worship really for?
Yeah. Well, let me work backwards. It may not be for everybody, but I think if it's for those people that are wanting to go deeper in their understanding of what true, biblically faithful, historically informed, authentic worship is for their congregation, not just looking out and around them, but a new way to think about how to think about worshiping and how we lead people in worship. For the worship leaders out there that do multiple services and multiple sites and are going, if I could just come up with a unifying vision that unites everybody, that are all in all these venues and all these places and all these different styles and expressions. This is for you. If it's for the young worship leader that is saying, I'm trying to figure out the next step for me. I'm watching the YouTubes. I've been asked at my church to lead, but I know it's something more than just music. I'm being called to lead worship. What does that mean? This is for you. Mm-hmm. Hi, everybody. Dave Hook here with Rooted Worship. If you're wondering how you and your worship teams at your church can dive a bit deeper into the matter of worship, well, we might have some resources that can help you, from online learning to virtual workshops, on-site workshops, and personal mentorship. We simply want to equip your leaders and foster worship renewal in your churches. We want to help you build a thriving worship culture that makes a difference in people's lives. So will you go to rooted-worship.com/equip and let us know how we can work with you, serve you, and partner with you. Grace and peace. It's funny, the Taproot, I'll go to the next point there. The Taproots Sessions podcast was not going to be the first thing. It was just going to be this grassroots mentoring word of mouth thing. I wanted it to be as authentic and as organic as possible. I didn't want to hang a sign on the door or do all the memes and slide decks that you see on Facebook that answers all the questions. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work at a very relational level. There's a guy named Aaron Keyes, wonderful worship writer, artist. He started a ministry called 10,000 Fathers. And I thought, where did he get that? He got that out of 1 Corinthians when Paul says, though there's 10,000 teachers among you, there are not many fathers. I think the deepest longing we have today, and you and I talked about this, Karina, I'm not trying to say, look, I got to figure it out, guys. Of all the hamburger joints out there, I finally made the perfect hamburger. You need to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm not saying that. All I'm doing is joining this wonderful current that is saying we are looking for authenticity. We are looking to take our people deeper. We are realizing that on Sunday mornings, we may have a great worship experience, but it's not having an impact on their everyday life. I say it this way. Is my Sunday worship having an impact on my Thursday life? Not my Monday life. I could probably get it right on Monday. But it's Thursday when I'm finally at that point of desperation. Am I walking in this lifestyle of worship? And I want to be careful with that. So I think I lost my train of thought there because I was ready to go off here. Help me get back on track with this. So we're talking about who's this for, right?
Yeah, I was just saying the overflow that you feel for having established this new ministry that you're now devoting your life to, Rooted Worship, which we can talk a little bit more about what that actually is as a ministry. But this is an offshoot of that. Taproot Sessions is the place where we're having the conversations about what Rooted Worship is and why it's a thing. What was the catalyst for that overflow to want it to spill out? Because you've been teaching this. You've been teaching these principles. You've been talking about them, starting conversations, listening and speaking about this stuff for years.
And I realized that God was saying, David, I just didn't make you to be a teacher. He would not let me. He's not letting me just become a guru who sits in a classroom, teaches, picks up his stuff, and walks out the door. I wanted to be that. There's days when I want to be that. I don't think we need more teachers. I mean, I teach that let me say it this way. We talked about this, and you'll see it in my introduction in the Rooted Worship curriculum. In the world of education, we're always teaching people how to think, what to think, excuse me, about something. Like we were using a bike riding analogy, we may talk about the physics, the history of the bike, how the bike was made, different types of bikes, famous people that have been either bike makers or bicyclists, in the Olympics or otherwise. And we learn on what to think about worship. And then we have many churches over the last 10, 15, 20 years that are doing these. Hey, look, you don't have to do the seminary thing. You don't have to do the college thing. We'll just teach you how to do it. Don't worry about that. Let's just get in the lab. Let's just get in the workshop. Let's get going here. Just do it. Let me just teach you the ride to bike. Problem is when you get a flat, when the chain breaks, you don't know how to fix the bike, right. and we send these people off, and just go ride, just go do it. And what happens, and a lot of young worship leaders especially are those people, and they get going down the road. They've not been confirmed in their calling, in their competencies, in growth and character. They've not gone deeper in their understanding of what it means to grow in the love and the knowledge of Christ, and to even flesh out some of those rough times in ministry to where they come out on the other side and go, yeah, I'm called to this. I hear his voice in my heart. I know this. They don't want to take the time to do that. Just do it. Just ride the bike. I'm trying to come right in between there and fill in a gap that says, this is important and this is important, but there is a way, how do I say this? How to think about what you do. Here's which way I pointed. How do we think? And it really is the key to application. And many people, we get scared by this, but I call it a worship philosophy. That's nothing new. People have said that before. There's a ministry. There's a philosophy of ministry. You can go on great places like the Gospel Coalition, Legionnaires, and other places where they talk about, do you have a philosophy of ministry? It's a combination of what to think, the theology of it, and how to do it. The practical ministry aspect. You have to have something that helps you know how to think about something.
How to connect
don't
those two.
Just don't fill in the blanks. You don't need me to fill in the blanks. And so I think if you're that person going, I need to learn how to think a different way about this so that I can apply it correctly, this is for you. This is a place to flesh that out.
So what I'm hearing you say, Dave, is you're like really being a bridge builder, right? Between all of the things that,
Good way to say it.
well, So let me restate to you a couple things. I heard you talking about young worship leaders, and I think I want to make sure that we invite young worship leaders into this space, because that's really your heart, is to reach out to people who, whether by necessity, have jumped into their church because they played guitar and are doing the thing and have a heart for the Lord and are doing what they need to do, and really want some sort of, I'll call it mentorship. There's a better word. I think communion and conversation are really the better words that we're trying to create here. But they're doing it by necessity, and they just want to have conversations about how should I be thinking about this? Because what they're doing from a week to week basis, from Thursday to Sunday, when they have to submit their set list and turn it in for Sunday, they're doing what needs to be done. And then the next segment of the week is, and now what am I going to do for this next sermon series, right? They're having to move from thinking about what to do to doing the thing they're supposed to do. And then in between, there's this missing element of feeling really rooted and grounded in why and how they're doing it. And no one's really giving them that because they're just performing.
Well, Karina,
that might not be right, but
no, I get what you're saying. And thank you. That's a really great point to bring up, because you've read the book of Ecclesiastes. What I've been told is that picture, the imagery you need to have to understand Ecclesiastes is an older man sitting on the porch with someone else, and the world is passing by. And that wise man's going, see that over there? See that situation over there? And he's giving wisdom to that younger person. I think the greatest needs of the next generation coming up, and I may be missing it. I don't have statistics. I don't have surveys. This is personal experience. I think they're looking for two things: identification, that I can identify with them in their struggles and in their pains, in their concerns. And second of all, validation. Is this normal? Is this a normal part of ministry? Sometimes if they just know, if they just know, yeah, this hurts, doesn't it? But it's all part of it. They'll keep going.
Yes. Solidarity, community. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. Let me say that back. Identity and identification and validation are the things that people might be looking for.
And guess what? You're only going to get it with an older guy like me. You're not going to get it. I'm sorry to say it. I wasn't ready. And a lot of guys out there trying to do it, they think they got 5 or 10 years under their belt and they're ready to go. Yeah. Nope, they're not. I'm sorry. You're not. That's where we got to listen to the older guys. I think if it's not me, the younger worship leader, the younger church leaders got to find that 60, 70, 80-year-old guy and sit down with them and listen to them, because there's some timeless principles. Two things drove me with this, and then I'll hand it back to you here. Number one of my 6 life verses is Psalm 71. Hopefully I'm quoting it right. It'd be embarrassing if I can't remember my own life verse. 71, 17, and 18. And it says,
well, if you have 6, it might be hard to remember.
Since my youth, O God, you taught me, and to this day I declare your marvelous deeds. Even when I'm old and gray, Lord, do not forsake me until I declare your might to the next generation, your power to all who are to come. I'm living that out now. I'm literally standing on the side of the road, calling out to the next generation of church leaders, going, I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to validate. I'm here to authentically and be transparent. Sometimes I've been embarrassingly transparent about my life and my struggles. We need that, because it's in the context of that relationship. I think that's the Paul and Timothy relationship that they had. Yeah, if you think about it, Paul said the word of God, the word of God is God breathed, and it's profitable for, I'm not going to get them all, teaching, training in righteousness, rebuke and admonition, warning. If you think about it, teaching, you can do it at an impersonal level. Okay. But the other ones, training, rebuking.
Yeah. You can't correct somebody that you don't love. Yeah.
It has to be in the context of relationship. We never get there. We never get there. We use the mentor word, but the truth is it's hard. I had this conversation with a young man just up the road from me. We've been having a hard time just connecting, and I've been giving him to-do lists and things to do and an intensive plan to make him a worship leader. And I'm getting mad because I'm thinking he's not doing it. He's not doing the work. He's not even calling me back. He's not even texting me. He must not want to do this. He calls back. Hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this. I won't use his name. And he apologizes. He goes, look, oh, no, I'm totally honest. As a matter of fact, I'm changing my college degree. I'm not going into this. I'm going to go into worship leadership. And I'd like you to mentor me for the next 3 months. If I had written that guy off, we would have never moved forward. And, but I said to him, I said, look, the problem is this. We're not friends yet. We've got to become friends. We've got to build that relationship, which back to the beginning of this, the curriculum and this podcast session, it's just basically me putting a microphone to the mouth of Rooted Worship saying, hey, we're here. The real stuff happens when someone calls and says, I need your help. Or when a church says, will you come check us out and do some teaching and build a relationship with us? And it's not just me in the future, Karina. It's you and it's other people. This is a grove. This is a
conversation
system.
I love that analogy. This is a grove. Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing is just the invitation that's inherent in what you're saying. The overflow is coming, from your age and experience. And that's just a fact. Like you have been through a lot and you've seen a lot. And so you're offering that up to the world. And I think that's beautiful. I think, inviting people to come and sit together in a grove, as you said, the metaphor of a grove of trees sitting together, just, the community of that and the ability to say, I need somebody to help me think about this, or I want to talk about this. I need someplace to talk about this. That's really what we're about right now is we're entering into this conversation. We want you to be part of it, dear listener. We want you to come and ask your questions. We want to hear what you want to talk about, but we really also want to just offer a wellspring to you of what has been learned. And I think just give a space for the Holy Spirit to be the bridge, to help us be that bridge builder. Does that make sense, Dave? Like we want to makes total sense. I hope that if someone watches this podcast, they'll find themselves hitting the pause button in the sessions ahead and having those moments. Yeah. Where I do that sometimes when I pray, when I hear something, a preacher, a word from someone online, I'll hit the pause button and I find myself, my wife thinks I'm weird because she sees my mouth moving. I'm talking to God. I'm talking to myself and I'm understanding that God is talking to me as I'm talking to myself. We need to start talking to ourselves more and stop listening to ourselves more. Listen to Kim, talk to ourselves. And I hope we enter into this, we build this village of conversation. I hope it's global. I really do. People go, oh, there he goes. Yeah. We got a big vision. Hey, look, I got news for you. The minute I talked to the Lord and said, where's Rooted Worship going? I get invited to Romania in June. I have no idea really completely why I'm going. But a church called and said, I know this guy that you know, Dave, will you come? Will you come and teach? Will you come and build a relationship with us and have an ongoing relationship with us? That's people I need to invite on this journey as well. So hopefully in the midst of all of our ramblings here, something's connecting and something's making sense that helps us realize that Rooted Worship is not about what we're going to do, but what we're not going to do and what we're not going to be about. We're going to keep it as simple and as organic and as real, but yet not just sit here and ramble on and make sure we all lick our wounds and connect with our pains, but say what matters most when God's people come together. Like you said at the beginning, right? What matters most? What are we doing here? What are we brave enough to say, we're not getting it right? know? So I think that's really wise. What you kind of circled back to the beginning when you said, what are we doing here? The frustration that you felt as a young man, trying to step into those spaces. I think let's answer those two questions really succinctly. What are we not doing here? We're not providing a place to vent about. This is not a Reddit thread that you're going to come tell me all the bad things about your pastor. Those exist. Those things. There are places for you to say all of those things. We receive you as a person who's maybe having a terrible encounter in your church experience right now, and then we want to speak to that. But this is
Right.
not the place to vent about pastors, to talk poorly about ministries, or to tell all the things that are going wrong. But what you said was, where are we getting it wrong? It's really a personal examination of how we're thinking about worship, and are we rooted? Because that's going to be the lens by which we look at everything. And it's going to give us language to speak to our pastors. It's going to give us language to speak to our fellow worshipers, our friends, the people in our small groups, all of it, right? That's the lens by which we are able to view the world, is a mirror of who we are inside. And so if we can get that part.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you there. You want to keep going?
If we can enter into a process of sanctification for ourselves and be ever learning and ever growing, that's really what rooted worship is about. It's about digging deep within ourselves, and so that something grows from that root, right? And yeah.
Well, let's talk about that sanctification part. That the big word there, that people run from those words all the time. Sanctification is probably one of the best words God ever gave us. Because we feel like that spirituality, and I cover this in the introduction to the curriculum as well. We've developed the spirituality out in this spiritual wasteland that we live in. That spiritual growth is a process of having acquired something. It's almost like playing a video game. I hate to admit, I still play video games. It's why I've got arthritis in my hands, not from piano playing, but just playing video games. And there are always stories of how we go along the journey and we acquire all these new weapons and tools and resources. And I find worship leaders do that. They go to these conferences, they read these books because they're just acquiring more stuff and more tools. And I'm thinking, is that really going to make us more effective? It helps us along the way. Then there's the other process of spirituality that says, I have arrived. I don't want anybody to think that I'm sitting here in my chair in my bedroom here going, ask me anything you want. I got the answer. Again, it's back to identification and validation. I'm perfectly comfortable, and Karina knows this as well, that I'm just simply saying, I really don't know, man. I'll help you find somebody on that. But we can at least come to a common understanding that sometimes there are question marks in the kingdom and in ministry. We don't have to. The good thing about sanctification is you don't have to answer everything. You don't have to have all the answers. And I think we have this ascent idea. We have this acquirement idea. We have this, I have experienced or I have encountered. That was a problem with the First Corinthian church, with the First and Second Corinthians, is they had somehow had this experience that was otherworldly and mystic. And believe me, I want to be caught up in the third heaven. I want to be caught up in the throne room experience of worship. But sometimes we raise the sensual to the mystical, and we think we have this experience. None of those things is sanctifications, and that's not what rooted worship is about. It's about living this out in a very practical way, that we're growing in Christ likeness. When we use words like spiritual formation, that's a very down to earth, rubber meets the road type discussion, that I'm not where God wants me to be yet, but I can always choose to do the right thing the next day. And I can always take up my cross each day and grow in him and grow in friendship with him and grow deeper and more rooted in my relationship with him.
And it's better when we do it together in community, because
Well, what I was going to say about that is that we've, the together in community is probably the one thing that we're coming back to. I mean, as short, Karina, as probably 10 years ago, we were talking about the me generation. It's all about me, all about me. Things are changing. Things are changing drastically. They're, unfortunately, in many ways, it's becoming more tribal, in my opinion. But communities are being formed. They're around common pain, common hurts, common anger. But in the body of Christ, we have this point where it's almost like in this post Christian generation, we're going back to first century principles to apply, being the people of God, living as the people of God, and living in community as people of God, and understanding that we will not be complete until we live this out together. Probably, I'm looking at the clock here. We'll probably need to close out with this, and we can continue with this. But I don't know if you remember, Karina, I talked about this this group of quaking aspens in Colorado. It's called Pando.
Yeah. Yes.
I spread is what the name of it is. And it's literally, I actually heard this first and foremost in a John Travolta movie. He was talking about this. Some guy who had had a brain tumor or something. I can't remember, but he talked about this to this girl, and I went, I got to look that up. And I realized that is a picture of community. It's one clonal root system. These trees are joined together. And I thought, what a picture, what a wonderful metaphor for rooted worship, is growing deeper and understanding the depths of Christ's love together in community when we can bring our people to that. And we'll talk some more about that in the days ahead. But as they say back in the old TV sitcom, the clock on the wall says, I think we're wrapping this up here, but I'll turn it back over to you. Any other thoughts?
No, I think, yes, I have a million other thoughts. I think we have a million other conversations to have. And that's the exciting part, is that we're going to have them. And so that's a great segue for us to say, we want you to be part of our community. This is not an invitation to leave your church and join something else. We are here no matter what your background is, whether you're coming to church, no matter what your denominational background is, wherever you are in the process of learning to worship our God, we want to do it together with you. And I think this is just an invitation to join the conversation. And there's so much more I want to say. I'm making notes, Dave, the whole time. We've got conversations coming that are going to be exactly what you need for such a time as this in your life right now. I believe that. So join us. We hope you'll, in the show notes below, there'll be a link to our website, Rooted Worship. And we'd love for you to say hello to us. Let us know that you listened, share this with a friend, and come back for another conversation. I am so honored to get to introduce my friend Dave Hook to the world and get to be part of these conversations with you. So thank you for tuning in. And it won't
always be about me, about Dave Hook's world. So it was just the introduction. So.
No, this is the origin story today. And we're going to have conversations with great friends from all over the world. And come on the journey with us. Come along. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in episode 2.
Grace and peace.